All right, ladies and gentlemen, it's time to wrap up Module 3 with our final installment of Module 3 notes. Today we're going to do a post-module review. This will cover the material that we had in the back half, kind of the end of Module 3. Okay, so last time we're going to write Module 3 notes. And as I mentioned, Module 3, well, I don't think I did mention that this is our 15th, kind of. This will go with Lesson 15, Module 3, Lesson 15, post-module review. That part I think I've said about 3 times now. All right. 15 is pretty easy to do in Roman numerals. You just give it a 10 and then 5 more. So 15, not actually a terribly long module this time. Okay. All right, let's start with the first lesson we went over in this, again, second half. We talked about Lesson 3-8. Okay. And actually, we're going to kind of combine 2 of them. So let's make a slight adjustment there. Okay. Let's do Lesson 3-8 and 3-9 together, because really they're the same thing. We talked about adding and subtracting. Ooh, I get to put 2 ampersands. That is very exciting. Adding and subtracting mixed numbers. Okay. Going into the margins a little bit, so let me slide that over. But again, these 2 sections were just adding and subtracting mixed numbers. Adding and subtracting mixed numbers. Okay. All right. So, for example, let's go ahead and do something like this. Let's say we have 2 and 1/3. The pencil starts breaking already. 2 and 1/3 plus 3 and 2/5. Now, if it were subtraction, the process would be the same. We would just be subtracting instead. We'll do a subtraction 1 in a moment. 2 and 1/3 plus 3 and 2/2. First thing you want to do is write this vertically. 2 and 1/3, 3 and 2/5. Just like with regular fraction addition, we need to look at those fractions and ask, do they have the same denominator? They don't. Now, I'm kind of ignoring the whole numbers for right now. A lot of students like to try to do those first. Please do not. Save those for later. 1/3 plus 2/5. Well, the least common multiple of 3 and 5, the least common denominator, will be 15. I can use that information to rewrite 1/3 as something over 15. I know that 3 times 5 gets me to 15. So I will multiply the numerator by that exact same thing. 1 times 5. 5/15. Down below, 5 times 3 is 15. So 2 times 3 will be 6. Okay. 5 plus 6. I'm just adding the numerators. Numerators only. Remember, the denominator is a label. The denominator is just telling you how big the piece is, how many of the pieces you would need for a complete set. This is almost just informational. Okay. 5 plus 6 is 11. 11/15. Now, if 11 had been bigger than 15, if this had been 20/15 or something like that, I would have had to take the improper fraction and change it, but in this case I won't need to do that. 2 plus 3 is pretty easy, that's just 5, so I can combine these together. The final answer is 5 and 11/15. Now again, please remember, if you have an improper fraction here, you're going to have to change that into a mixed number. When you combine the mixed number part with this, you'll put the whole numbers together. Okay. We'll do another one of those hopefully a little bit later. Otherwise, you've seen them in class, you'll see them again. Okay. Now, don't have a ton of space for subtraction, but I think it is important that we fit one in. So let's make that work. Let's do 4 and 2/7 minus 2 and 1/3. Now, a lot of students want to try to subtract right away. 4 minus 2 is 2. Yay! Not necessarily. Maybe. We have to be careful with that. Okay? We write it vertically. 4 and 2/7 minus 2 and 1/3. There we go. Just like before, please save the whole numbers for later. Save the whole numbers for later. 2/7 minus 1/3. Well, denominators are different, so I need to make them the same. Okay. 7 and 3, the least common multiple, the least common denominator will be 21. So we'll go with that. 7 times 3 is 21. 2 times 3 is 6. 3 times 7 would give me 21, so 1 times 7 is 7. Okay. This is why we don't subtract the whole numbers first. 6 minus 7. 6, 21st, minus 7, 21st. I cannot take 7 away from 6. I don't have enough. I do not have enough. So I have to kind of mentally ignore all of this stuff in the center for a moment. We're done with that anyway. Slide this up a bit. There we go. Okay. So I'm going to cover that up, try to ignore it for a moment. Ah, come on, pencil. There we go. 4 and 6/21. The 6/21 cries out to the 4, I don't have enough! Help me! So the 4 says, ugh, fine. And takes one of its wholes and sends it across the line into the land of fractions. Now, that's going to leave 3 wholes behind, 3 complete sets over here. As that one complete hole travels across the barrier, it shatters into little fractional pieces. Now, I can pick anything I want. 1 over 1, 5 over 5, 10 over 10. As long as the numerator and denominator are the same, that's equal to 1. So I may as well pick the denominator I'm already working with. As this whole number travels across, explodes into 21 21s, 21 21sts, 21 over 21. I add that 21 21sts to the 6 21sts that I already have. And actually, you know what? Let's not erase the 6. I'm sorry. Let's just scratch it out. That 6 is going to combine with the 21 new ones that are coming over, and now I have 27 21sts. Okay. I have borrowed. Now I can subtract properly. 27 minus 7 is 20. The 21sts, the denominator just carries down. 3 minus 2 is 1. That's pretty easy. So the final answer is 1 and 20 21sts. Okay. Now, we've got a lot of empty space here. I loathe having empty space. So I am going to take this opportunity to write a nice big reminder here. Always write your addition and subtraction. Three ampersands. Always write your addition and subtraction vertically. Write it vertically, write it up and down. I know for some reason, to be honest, I'm the same way sometimes. For some reason, there's this need to leave it horizontally. I think just because it takes up less space on the paper. Don't leave it like this. Write it vertically. Give yourself space to do these different computations, to do these different things. Okay? Again, it can be frustrating. We want to hurry. We want to be done. But really, the more you take your time, the more you show your work, the more you work things out, the better you will do. Now, that section was really long because it was 2 sections and because it kind of covers pretty much the rest of this. But I will go ahead and list out at least the next 2 lessons. Okay. After 3.8 and 3.9, we jumped to lesson 3.10. That's not how you write a letter L. Lesson 3-10. We mostly did word problem practice. And this is why we kind of skip over 3.11, 3.12. It's all mostly word problem practice. That is what we mostly focused on. Okay. Now, we're not going to solve an entire problem. The big thing that I want you to remember, and we talked about this in class, this is your I can statement. I can write and, that gets an actual and this time. I can write and interpret. I can write and interpret numerical expressions. This means that you can translate a word problem into a number sentence. Okay. So if I give you something like this example, how many more blue marbles are there than red marbles? Now, I didn't even give you any numbers. But hopefully most of you are looking at this and recognizing, okay, it says how many more? How many more than? That is a subtraction problem. So that means I am going to be subtracting something minus something. Okay. How many more blue marbles are there than red marbles? Well, how many more blue? So blue should go first. We'll subtract out the red, and whatever we get will be our difference. Okay. That'll be the answer to our problem. Okay. If you are still feeling frustrated with word problems, again, we're going to practice more in class, but try to find some online, look in your book for ones that we haven't covered. Practice. Even if you don't solve them all the way, at least setting up the equation, setting up that numerical expression. Okay. All right, lesson 3-13 was estimating sums and differences of mixed numbers. And you know what? We'll go ahead and put mixed numbers. It's kind of cheating, but we're running out of space and we're running low on time. So let's wrap up. Estimating sums and differences of mixed numbers. I know that this was kind of frustrating for some of us. The big thing to remember here, we talked in class about benchmark fractions. Think 1/2. Is the fraction part equal to or greater than 1/2? Is it less than 1/2? That's a weird looking question mark. Let's fix that. Okay. If it's equal to or greater, round up. If it's less than 1/2, round down. Okay. And we talked about you can just double the numerator. That makes it really straightforward. Okay. And finally, I know these notes are running long. We're almost at 16 minutes. We're almost done. The last one, lesson 3-14. Okay, lesson 3-14. This is where we talked briefly about strategizing. Strategize to solve multi-term problems. Some students get very intimidated when they see they're adding 3, 4, 5 things together. Don't get intimidated. Don't try to do it all at once. The key here, combine like. Okay. Come on, pencil. We're almost at the end. Combine like, which just means the same, terms first. Okay. If you have 2 or 3 fractions that have the same denominator, a common denominator, start with those. Put those together first. Even if you have ones that you just know the common denominator really easy. I've got 1/2 plus 3/4. Well, I know what 2 and 4, what their common denominator is. Do those first. Okay. Our last line, we're just barely squeezing it in. Use the commutative for ampersands. Use the commutative and associative properties. Okay. We don't usually go down to the very bottom of the paper, so this is definitely our spot to stop. You will see a study guide in class. There should also be a study guide posting online soon. So, if you have any other questions or concerns, write them down, and I will see you in class.